Expert chat. Upgrade your cat's lifestyle.
Hey everyone, welcome to MeloCat's Expert Chat, where we will help you upgrade your cat's lifestyle. Remember, since 2000 or something, early 2000, I can't remember the exact date, there was a campaign that's called Adopt, Don't Shop. And everyone still talk about it to this day. It's one of those things that kind of just became like a descriptor, a phrase, a call to action. So this is a movement that promotes adopting pets from shelters rather than buying them from breeders or pet stores. We will get a little bit deeper into the situation of shelters as we talk about that concept. But you're probably going to wonder, how does this all relate to the common cat problems that we have at home? Because many of these problems that cat parents face at home, such as destructive behavior, litter box issues, aggression, it can be all traced back pretty much to a lack of proper socialization, a lack of proper care in a cat's life, along with a bunch of other stuff. Adopting a cat from a shelter, yes, it could provide a home for a homeless cat. That is correct. While a lot of things we can do can lower the risk of these problems, but how do you do it is a $1,000,000 question. So today we will be looking at the advantages of adopting and how to properly take care for these kitties and how you can get involved in the adopt, don't shop habit movement campaign, whatever you call it. So today we have Dr. Marci Koski. Hey, thanks for being with us today.
Hey, Melody. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. So before we start, I'm going to introduce you a little bit to our audience so that they know a little bit about what you do and just the whole background and experience, because I know you've done a lot of things in the cat industry. So just going to get started here. Dr. Koski is a certified feline behavior and training consultant in Vancouver, Washington, in the United States. Now, she has a Ph.D. in Fishery and Wildlife Biology from Colorado State University and has a career as a biologist with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service for over 10 years, where she worked towards the conservation and recovery of threatened and endangered species of all types. More power to you. That is really admirable work. While conservation is very important, she did not enjoy working for an agency where science was overruled by, as you probably know it, politics. And so in 2014, Dr. Koski earned specialized and advanced certificates in feline training and behavior from the Animal Behavior Institute and established her cat behavior consulting business, Feline Behavior Solutions. I like that name, by the way. It really sticks with
Thank you.
people. Pretty self-explanatory, right?
Yeah, it pretty much is. The only drawback of it is that I think people think that they have to have a problem in order to talk to me, but they really don't. If you love your cats and you want them to have a better life, I want to talk to those people too, because
Mm.
I learned something new from each client. And I love it when I get to share ideas with cat people and they can give me new ideas.
Mm.
But really, it's just really about educating people about how to give cats
Oh,
what they need in life.
absolutely. In Hong Kong, there's a term. It's called po yu. It means it's those helpers that's helping new moms that have zero experience. They're freaking out. They're tired. They just had a baby. They don't know how to make the formula. They don't know how to bathe the baby. So you hire an experienced mom, usually their grandmas already, and they come into your house. They reside there for the first month after you have a baby to teach you the SOPs, the protocols. They take care of you. They cook for you, and in the meantime, they show you how to take care of your baby. So I
So
think
am I like a cat puyu?
yeah,
Is that-
in a way, yes. We're like the experienced moms that go to people and show them how it's done from our experience. I think the name Feline Behavior Solutions, it doesn't exactly sound like it's like a problematic thing. The reason why I say that is, how in IT companies, they always say it's like an IT solution, but then people in the
Right.
industry know that the IT solution includes the preventative part of things too.
Yes.
Cats, I knew they always had a very special place in your heart. And you currently have 4 senior kitties who supervise your day-to-day activities.
Samantha is the matriarch and she's 14 years old. And my husband rescued her before he met me.
Oh,
And when he got her, she was actually pregnant. So she had kittens and he ended up keeping 2 of those kittens. So we also have Momo and Oliver,
Mm.
and we call them the kittens still, but they're 13 years old and gigantic.
Wow.
So it's Samantha, Oliver, and Momo, and they're all three related.
So, in addition to having your own business, I know that you're also involved with the local rescue community in the Southwest Washington. So, for everybody that's in the audience, Americans, woohoo. Yes, and she's a member of board of directors for Furry Friends, which is a no-kill cats only rescue. And she volunteer as their cat behavior expert who address concerns both in the halfway house and before and after cats are adopted. And
Yeah.
I know that you also worked with the Humane Society for Southwest Washington, where you help connect the under-socialized cats with inmates at a nearby minimum security prison. I think a lot of us have been looking at some of the videos online that talk about similar programs, but we don't know that much about it. I know you also visited the prison every 2 weeks to teach the inmates about
Mhm.
cat behavior and help them socialize the cats with whom they live until the cats were socialized. And the cats were then adopted out to their forever homes through
Yep.
the Humane Society. And I know your primary mission for the Feline Behavior Solution is to keep the cats in homes and out of shelters. And you believe that the number of cats who are abandoned and or euthanized in shelters can be significantly reduced if the guardians better understand how cats work and how to better meet their needs in a way that makes pretty much everybody happy, like a win-win situation.
Right.
And
Right.
what makes you happy is that when you're able to help people around the world have better, more fulfilling relationships with their kitties and to help those cats have a better quality of life. So it seems like a lot of things, but all those things are quite related, isn't it?
Yes, it really is because you talk about people kind of come to me as a last resort. I
Mm,
hear it all the time. You're my last resort. Otherwise, I'm going to have to euthanize or give this cat to the shelter or rehome them.
mm,
And what I do is work with those people to find out why the cat is doing what they're doing. So it's a lot of sleuthing and asking a lot of questions. And then it's educating people to be able to give the cat what they need.
right.
It's not usually a cat problem, it's a people problem. So, because the cats really are just reacting and responding to the environment that they've been given.
Mm,
But the ultimate goal is to repair the relationship between the cat and the people
mm.
so that the people can live with their cats and everybody's happy and nobody has to go to a shelter.
Yeah.
Because depending on where you live in the world, some shelters have better live release rates than others. And
Mm.
shelters are a stressful place for cats. And I think that a lot of so called behavior problems, if people understood cats better, it wouldn't be a problem.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's just a matter of education.
Oh, absolutely. So before I start interrogating with all of the questions that I've drafted out, can you tell us a little bit more about the prison program and how that kind of ties with the shelters? Because you mentioned earlier how the inmates would socialize these cats so that it becomes adopted, right? So can you maybe tell us how those three things relate and tie together so that we have a better picture?
Right. Right. So this was a program that was started by the Humane Society for Southwest Washington. And I started off volunteering for them, but then they hired me as the consultant to improve their prison program. It was one of the first, if not the first, Humane Society in the United States to have cats up in prisons for inmates. And the program existed before I got there, but I helped to kind of overhaul that program by developing content and learning modules for the inmates.
Wow.
So, what would happen is cats would be surrendered to the shelter, right? So, you'd have cats that were hard to handle, either by Humane Society staff, like they would be aggressive or extremely fearful. So they would act defensively or get aggressive, bite, scratch, those types of things, or just completely withdraw.
Right.
So these were cats that we couldn't just put out on the adoption floor because they were not ready to be adopted. So these cats, they had to meet certain criteria. They would be taken to the prison
Mm,
where they lived with I think the maximum, it was 20 people in the program at a time. And the way that worked was two inmates would share a room.
Mm.
So one of the benefits to the inmates was that they got to have a two-person room instead of living in a dormitory with a
Oh.
lot of people.
Oh.
So it would be two guys per room, and then they would live with this cat until the cat was properly socialized, could be handled, and met specific criteria.
Mm.
And then the cat would graduate essentially and go back down to the shelter and get adopted out to a forever home. And
Mm.
a new cat would be delivered up to those guys to be socialized and do the process all over again.
Huh. In that program, initially, did people sign up because they love cats or is it because they wanted a two-person room?
So
Or
that
is it
was
kind of
part of one of the issues that we had. We had some fantastic guys in that program who loved cats, loved animals. There was also a dog program that started after the cat program. And we did have people who applied to be in that program who just wanted an easy way to fulfill their work detail
Oh,
requirement,
right.
or who wanted to be in semi-private room.
Mm.
But we were able to review all the applications and we were like, this guy, I don't think he really. And so we were able to get certain people in, and even guys who may not have loved cats initially definitely became cat people.
That's what.
Yeah, yeah. And it was a lot about learning responsibility, caring for something other than yourself, and being able to take a journey of rehabilitation for a cat. And so with a cat. And so it really not only just helped the cats, but it really helped the the participants of the program as well. People make mistakes and they end up in prison for all sorts of reasons, but we saw a lot of good things come out of these people. Some of them were not great, but we didn't have any cats abused. There were maybe a couple of instances where some of the guys were concerned about somebody else's cat, and so they would tell us,
Oh,
and we would kick the people out of the program if there were any concerns about the safety and health of the cats. They were very well monitored, and we had leaders in that program who told us what was going on, and we dealt with it.
wow. I like how it self-regulates too. That is wow. Now I'm starting to paint a better picture, but that's why I was asking. I was like, I'm quite sure that some of the guys got converted to liking cats, even if they initially didn't. So that confirms what I was thinking. So going back to that journey that you were talking about. So when the
Yeah.
cats graduated and they hand them to the shelter, do the people and the cats just keep circulating? So does that mean they'll have a new batch of cats and a new batch of people that's going to take care of them? Is that how it works?
No, the people stay in
Oh.
the program for as long as they want to be in the program, or unless they got released
Mm.
from the prison. So if their release time came up and they got released.
Mm.
But we had pairs of guys who had worked with 15, 20 cats. And so we had people who were really well versed in cat behavior and were really good at socializing and understanding the cats that went up there.
Wow, that's really impressive. So
Yeah.
after they're done, they graduate, and then so the cats move on, and then I guess the humans would just take care of a new batch. Then how does that kind of work all together with the shelters? So I guess is that kind of like a continuous program where specific shelters would just keep bringing in cats, incoming cats from shelters, socialize, go back to the same shelter, and then to the new
Yeah.
parents?
It was the same shelter. So
Okay.
it was it at first, I think when the program started, there were 2 shelters involved, but then it went to 1 shelter. It all came down to 1 shelter. The Humane Society for Southwest Washington is a fairly large shelter,
Mm.
and that's where all the cats came from. Sometimes there weren't enough cats, and I know sometimes, like, during kitten season, we would not have enough fosters at the
Mm.
shelter to take care of a mom and her kittens.
Yeah.
Or somebody would find a whole litter of kittens and didn't have a mom. So we would
Mm.
also bring litters of kittens up to the shelter, newborns, so that they'd have to be bottle fed. And so guys took care of those kitties too.
Oh,
Um, and yeah, it was just, it kept them busy. It kept them busy. A
oh,
lot
and
of
it's
guys were like, oh, this will be such an easy gig. I don't have to do work or whatever. Oh no, we had them keeping notes. We had them filling out forms. We had them taking trainings. We wanted details on
it's
what
a
was
lot of
happening.
work. Newborns easy? Are you
Yeah.
kidding me?
Yeah.
I think that's a very interesting point that you mentioned is that you hear that in families, sometimes even in my own, where my dad is, "Ah, come on, taking care of kids are easy." Long story short, he said that to my mom's face when I was born. I was a child. So my mom bought a ticket to Europe, didn't come back for a month, and said she left enough diapers and enough formula at home where he can take care of everything. He started screaming by the second day, begging my mom to come back.
Yes.
Yeah, so I think it's great. It's a great win-win situation for everybody, and
Yeah.
a lot of times for these newborn kittens, a lot of shelters are not willing to take them as well, especially in some of the regions where I've been in, because they end up dying or they just don't have the resources to take care of them overnight or whatever. And it's
Yeah.
great that the inmates are willing to take up this newborn dad roles. It's not easy.
I don't
Lose
know if they had a
pounds.
choice, but
Oh, it's assigned to them.
it's
But if they sign
assigned
up
to
to the
that.
program, then it ends up on their lap one day. It's a good way
Yep.
to lose weight, if anything. From my experience,
Man.
I'm like a 100-pound person. I lost 13 pounds from taking care of a newborn that was injured.
Wow.
Yeah. Not a
Wow.
healthy way to
Yeah.
lose weight, but yeah, you do.
Yeah. I remember the guys like complaining, oh, these kittens, when they get so many weeks old, they're just everywhere and climbing all over everything. These guys had vertical space in their rooms.
No
So they
way.
had cat shelves and cat trees and all sorts of stuff, and that they would build for the cats. And I remember some of the guys just being like, God, these kittens are just keeping us up at night. We can't get sleep."
Welcome to the world of being a dad.
Yeah.
So now you mentioned about the prison program, how it works with the shelters. Now let's go into the common problems because we touched on, well, we talked about the first two, but we just touched on the third one. I guess it all ties because adopting is nice, being a newborn's dad is nice, but as you mentioned, sometimes people just can't anticipate having these problems. We first probably
Right.
thought it's so easy until it's an execution. So let us just go through this whole journey of the household funds and not so fun stuff. So
Mm.
let's start with the light one. What is the journey of the feline behavior interventions from your experience? When people come to you, your clients, like what kind of problems do they run into? And is there like a formula? Is there common things that you see? Is there any common pain points? Can you tell us a little bit
Yeah.
about that?
Yeah. Like I said before, usually when people contact me and we hear this phrase all the time, we're at our wits' end.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm like, oh no. So the relationship is already damaged. The people don't know what to do. There's
Mm,
lots of conflicting advice on the internet. They may have tried things, they may not have tried things. But basically, the cat is doing something, it's trying to meet a need in one way, the only way that they see that they can meet that need. And that way is not acceptable to the humans.
right.
So the very first thing that I discuss with clients is, okay, what is your goal? What is your end goal? What would you like out of this? And I think some people expect, oh, well, I'm paying you.
Mm,
So just by doing that, the problem should be resolved. And me, I work with people all over the world. So I can't go to everybody's house. And
mm,
my job is to tell cat guardians how to resolve the issue and why it's an issue in the first place. And so I have to kind of break it to people that there's actual work involved in this. So I have to get a feel for how much they're willing to work.
mm,
And that will guide me in terms of, okay, do we need to take like baby steps and measure small successes?
mm,
Or is this a person who's all in, gung ho, wants everything and will get started right away and just dive right in?
mm.
So I have to measure where people at are at in terms of their frustration level and their anxiety, and how well are they going to be able to work through any kind of program that we give them. And they have to have realistic expectations of their cat.
That's
Sometimes people like litter box placement, for example.
mm,
Sometimes it's just incredibly, I do not want a litter box in my living room. That is not going to happen. That's where I draw the line. No litter box in my living room. Not going to happen.
yeah.
What else do you have? And I'll say, look, I highly recommend that you have a litter box in your living room because this is the problem you're having. I don't know if you'll be able to see success without this. We can try X, Y, and Z, but it might come down to having a litter box in your living room.
Yeah.
It's almost like some people expect me to have a magic wand.
Yes.
Like, oh, I
Yes,
don't want
I
to do that. I
understand.
can't do that. What else do you have?
Oh,
What else do you have? What else do you have? Oh, I saved the easy stuff for later. So let me get the easy stuff out for you.
mm,
It's
yeah.
it can be a little frustrating in that sense, but that's why I try to figure out where people are on the scale of open to trying new things
Mm.
or not open to trying new things. Yeah.
Absolutely. When you said that, I was like, "Yes, somebody understands," because that's something that only people on our side would understand. For example, just make a long story short, yesterday I was at a client's and I was making assessments because they already damaged the relationship between the new cat and the existing cat
Yeah.
by not properly introducing them. So the resident cat is okay, just really playing really rough, like
Yeah.
really, really rough. And the new cat was already horrified to the point that it was panting, and I'm like, "I
Oh,
don't know what kind of damages you've done already by just tossing her in the house." So when I went in to assess, they too thought I had like a magic pill that they can swallow it and boom, suddenly tomorrow it's going to be great. They're like, "It's going to take it what, so at least a month from your experience?" I'm like, "If you're lucky, that's I can't tell you exactly 30 days, but just generally
right.
from my
Yeah.
experience, you should expect to see XYZ even a little bit by this point in time. But I need your
Right.
compliance, the homework that I give you, I need the 2 of you to work diligently." And then so
Yeah.
their interpretation was, "Okay, I'll do this once a day. I'll socialize them together once a day under supervision." I'm like, "No, the more you do it, the faster you're going to get there." Just like
Yeah.
you spending time with your kids. If you want your kids to bond with you can't do quality family day once a year and expect the best results. It's going
Right.
to do something, but I could tell you it's going
Yeah.
to be a lot better if you do it 365 days a year and multiple
No.
times a day, which is called quality life with your family. So it took
Yeah.
them a while to grasp that and even to get both of them on board with the idea, not the easiest. So I do feel your pain, but at the same time, it's so rewarding when you get that compliance and when it works, right?
I have had some of the most amazing clients who have they worked with their cats for a year.
Mm,
And then I hear from them and they're like, we're there, it's going great, and we're doing it. It took a long time, but we're there. We're finally there. And I'm like,
yes.
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 So I have clients who are in it for the long haul, and sometimes it takes a year
Yeah.
because you don't know. Every cat is different.
Yeah,
Every
of
cat is
course.
different, just like
Of course.
people. They
Mhm,
have different personalities, they have different backgrounds, they have different experiences.
mhm.
And when they come into your house and you expect certain things out of them,
Mm.
that may or may not line up with what they have.
Right. Yeah, that's true.
So
Yeah.
sometimes adjustments take longer for some cats, and that's okay as long as their people are willing to work with them.
Yeah, and I always say, as long as that progression, it's a line that is trending upwards overall,
Yeah,
it might be like this kind of trending upwards, it's still okay.
absolutely.
The overall direction, as long as it's not plummeting in the long run, that's still a win, no matter how steep or not steep it is, just as long as it's going that
I
direction.
I 100% agree, and I tell my clients that all the time. I do the same thing. If it's slow, as long as it's going up, we're okay. If you're going like this, that's fine. You're
Mhm.
gonna have good days and you're gonna have bad days. What we don't wanna
Yeah.
see is this
Yeah, same. I
because
always explain, like, the
yeah,
stock market. Don't look at the
yes,
micro, look at the macro. Is this
right.
gaining in the long run? If it is, then you're doing the right thing.
Exactly. Yep.
Now, you
And
touched a little
some
bit.
steps take
Yep,
longer than others.
of
So
course. Of
be
course.
patient with that too.
Of
Yeah.
course, absolutely. And it's
Um,
just a way to have our clients just help us help them. I think that makes the biggest difference. Sometimes it's not the problem itself, it's when they're trying to fight it. Like, just
yeah.
please don't fight me. Let me prove to you that this is right. But going back to what you said, when you talk about just the expectations, having healthy expectations, how about exceptions? I think that's something that people have to be aware of. Some people
Right.
wonder, are they the exceptional case or are there some things that are not fixable by us?
Yes, I am a behavior consultant.
Mm,
I'm not a veterinarian. And as we know, medical conditions can absolutely 100% affect behavior. Similarly, nutrition issues. If a cat is deficient in one way or another
yeah.
regarding nutrition, that's something that I can't necessarily diagnose or
Hmm.
fix.
Yeah.
A lot of behavior issues are environmentally based or based in socialization
Yeah.
issues, and that's what I can help with.
Yeah.
But I do see a lot of cases where I'm like, I know that your veterinarian said that everything looks good and your cat is fine. Your cat is still meowing when
Mm,
she's using the litter box and nothing is coming out. This cat needs to go back to the vet.
mm.
So
Yes.
there are definitely times when I'm like, there's a pain issue here. There's something going on medically that we need to explore.
Yeah.
So I'll send people back to vets all the time.
Oh,
Um, and a lot of time, I love working with vets and sharing what my observations have been and what I've recommended. Vets find that very helpful. And yeah, I'm happy to work with vets in that respect.
and I think that's the most effective as well because it's never all yours or all my responsibility. We kind of work together and sometimes we help catch things just on both sides, just watching out for one another. That reminds me of an experience that I had with one of my earlier clients. Is the cat was refusing to use the litter box? Well, very young cat, so it's not like it has joint problems or whatnot. No
Yeah.
UTI, the health records come out clean. And guess what? It turned out the cat was always leaping with one of its hind legs on the edge of the litter box, but the litter box is big enough. They tried different sizes, lid, no lid, top loader, just normal box. And
Right.
guess what
Right.
the culprit was? It's a splinter that is from the wood litter they were using, got in the middle of one of the claws, and it was in pain when it was squatting. So it kept keeping one of its legs on the edge of the box so it's not standing on the
Got it.
claw. Who
Yeah.
would have ever guessed that? It's not a
I've
medical
had
problem.
clients yeah, I've had clients where the cat had a sprained foot or even a broken bone,
Mm,
and the clients didn't know, but I was like, "There's something going on."
yeah,
I consulted with a veterinarian. She
mm,
reached out to me for help with her cats,
right.
and one of them there was some other things going on with this cat, but I was looking on the video and I was like, "This cat is really twitchy."
Mm,
And based on what was happening, I was like, "Have you thought about feline hyperesthesia for this cat?" And she was like, "Oh my god, I'm so glad you saw that. I would have never have
you
thought
see the
about
skin
that for
rolling,
him, but
right?
that makes a lot of sense." He was
Mm.
very twitchy. So not necessarily the rolling,
Oh, so
but
even worse. 2 of my cats
really
have that.
just yeah,
Out of
yeah,
nowhere,
just
they would be
really
like
twitchy.
but then it's from the
Yeah,
smallest triggers that we don't even know what it is. Yeah.
right, right.
I was talking
So
about that
anyway,
with
I mean, like,
another podcast. A lot
yeah,
of people don't know about it.
yeah. A lot of vets don't know what it is. I have talked with lots of clients and I'm like, have you asked your vet about feline hyperesthesia? And, oh, yeah, I did, but my vet doesn't know what that is. And I'm like, what?
From my understanding, that's a heightened reaction to just normal or regular stimulus. Yeah.
Yeah. And a lot of times it's dermatological. My understanding is that something will trigger the nerves to transmit a pain signal.
Mhm.
And so the cat is feeling pain
Mhm.
when there's nothing
Nothing. It's
actually.
like an
And
overreaction to benign
right,
things.
and so then they get aggressive to whoever's around because it's kinda like redirected aggression because there's pain and I need to, like, fight this thing off, what's causing me pain, and then there's a human right there. Yeah, or another animal
You're
or
talking to that
whatever.
human, that black cat that
Yeah,
I was talking about, Sir
yeah,
Carlos. he has that. And when he's triggered, whatever that stimulus is, he would attack the closest weakling by biting her
Yeah.
ankle for 2 seconds, kick it really hard, draws blood, and then he will run
Yeah.
off. And that weakling is me.
Y-
It's always me. It's not my other cats, it's always me. And I
Yeah.
asked my vet before. They're like, "Yeah, we've seen cases like that where they pick on the closest weakling, so the one that they think has the lowest rank in the house that they can bully on, they
Mm,
usually do it to that one." And it seems like you're the
yeah.
one with the lowest rank in the house.
Oh, well.
That leads to my next question is what are some of the common behavioral problems that cat parents seek help for? And what are some possible causes for these issues? Because I think you mentioned some of them. How about the other ones? Was it like soiling, other behavior
Yeah.
like attacks, etc.?
So I'd say probably 75% of my clients right now are
Mm.
dealing with inner cat aggression.
Ooh.
So this is like where cats weren't introduced properly, or maybe there was an incident of redirected aggression and things just haven't been the same since, or just anything where the cats are not getting along. And so that's the majority of my clients. I do get a lot of clients coming to me for house soiling issues,
Mm.
and there's often overlap. So a lot of the cases where we're dealing with multi-cat families and cats aren't getting along, there's also house soiling in those cases too. Intercat aggression and house soiling are two big ones. But then there's other things like just destructive behaviors. Cats are shredding furniture, or they're exhibiting nuisance behaviors like getting up on counters, or
Mm.
excessive vocalization during the night, or constantly begging for food, or whatever the case is. Those are fun because it involves some training
Mhm.
for the people as well. And I love teaching people about training
Mm.
and how it's really about providing the cat with an alternative way to express that necessary behavior,
Oh, yeah.
but giving them a way to do that works for the cat. And then you reward them for doing that. And then eventually the undesirable behavior expression will die off because they're
Yeah.
not getting rewarded for it.
Yeah.
So it's all about positive reinforcement. I talk about clicker training when it comes to a lot of stuff. Anyway, those are probably the main behavior issues that I deal with.
So you mentioned about training, how we talked about some people don't like that word. There's misconceptions about it. They don't want to be trained. They don't want the cat to be trained. But as I said, it's not like we're making anyone jump through fire hoops. And it's not like the training, it's like military drill or whatnot. So what can you
Right.
tell us more about the misconceptions about cat training and how can the parents effectively, air quotes, train their cats?
So here's what I like to think about.
Mm.
It's really a mindset that people need to take. For example, the human species has worked with dogs for thousands of years, tens of thousands of years. We've trained dogs to do a lot of things, not just tricks. Obviously, we've trained dogs to protect us and to hunt for us and do all sorts of things that aren't
Mm.
just trick related, but to display good behavior and things that we want them to do. Now, humans have gotten spoiled because dogs are really easy.
Yes.
Dogs, their whole deal is, what can I do for you?
Hmm.
What can I do for you? I
Hmm.
know you have a treat, but that's okay. I don't really care about the treat. What can I do for you? All I want
Yeah.
to do is please my person. So, what can I do for you?
Yeah.
Now, cats, on the other hand, cats, I personally think are a little bit smarter than dogs. Cats, we have to, cats are a little bit more challenging because instead of the cat going, what can I do for you? The cats are like, I could do that, but what's in it for me?
Mm.
So, the key to training, in my opinion, with cats is finding something that they are willing to work for. And not all cats are food motivated. So we have to find other things.
Yes.
When we have a cat who is food motivated, that's great. That's easy. Okay, got it. We can work with that. No problem. But I work with lots of cats who aren't food motivated. So we have to find something that they do. And that can be petting and affection. It can be praise. Some cats respond very well to praise. Some cats like toys and having stuff tossed for them. It's not always easy,
Hmm.
but we have to find that thing that the cat is willing to work for.
Oh,
Yeah. And once we find that thing, then it's simply a matter of teaching a cat, okay, I'm going to give you a signal. And when you hear that signal or see that signal, if you're
hmm.
working with a deaf cat, which
Right.
I've done, it's a predictor of a reward.
Yes.
And then, so it's that easy. And so I use clicker training a lot,
Hmm.
especially in introductions. So repairing inter-cat relationships, I use that a lot.
Hmm.
I even use clicker training with litter box issues. Now, what I do with clicker training might be a little bit different than other people, what they do with clicker training. For
Okay.
me, I don't use a clicker. I use a tongue click.
Oh,
And for me personally, I like having my hands free. Plus, like I found when I was using a clicker, a lot of cats were scared of that sound initially, but it also was an extra step. It had to go, the signal had to go from my eyes to my brain, down to my hand. And then I had to, like, even if it was on me, I had to get it and then click. And by then, the cat could have done any number of things
sure.
between the desired behavior that I wanted to reward and the click. What the goal is to make that click sound happen as soon as possible after that behavior occurs.
Hmm.
And it buys you time. It tells the cat, yes, a reward is on its way. A reward is on its way.
Yes.
So that click marker, I always call this non-clicker, non-training, clicker training, because technically what I'm doing is just conditioning the cat to understand that the click means a reward is coming. And that's
Oh,
really what it is. So for introductions, for example, I use the click sound to mark neutral interactions. If cats walk past each other without hissing or growling, you can
hmm.
click and reward that.
Yeah.
Or if cats get together, they sniff noses
Hmm.
and everything is calm, click and reward that. You
Yes.
know what I mean? So it's not training because I'm not asking a cat to do anything. It's simply marking a behavior when it happens and telling them, yes, that's what I wanted. You get a reward for that.
Oh, it goes unnoticed. It's kind of that fanfare that people play in events. And when you hear that fanfare, he's going to
Yeah.
walk through those doors. Or when that fanfare comes up, some special guest is going to go on the
Yeah.
stage. It's that same conditioning as well, isn't it? We're quite tuned
Exactly.
to that.
Exactly.
Oh, I love that
Exactly.
so much.
Yeah.
Non-clicker, non-training, clicker training. Oh,
Yeah.
I'm going to tell everybody about that. That is way too cool. That is way too I'm going to make that a slogan. And that rolls off actually okay. I like that.
And it's really easy. You tell people, okay, we're going to talk about clicker training. And they're like, third cat? Oh my gosh, this is going to be so hard. And I'm like, no, first of all, we're not going to use a clicker. And second of all, we're not going to technically be training.
Mhm.
So just relax. It's easy.
I think it's a
So
great conversation
yeah,
opener too. It's I want that bean and rice burrito without the bean and rice. So, ma'am, then what
yeah,
do you want? I want a burrito. Really? Seriously? Yes, I am
really? Yeah,
serious.
yes, yes. So you can think of that click sound just as another way of saying, yes,
Hmm,
hang on, your reward's coming.
absolutely.
Yeah. And you can use whatever the cats like for rewards.
Mm,
So if it's treats, great. You can use petting, praise, brushing,
yep. Anything that they
whatever the
like.
cats can
Yep.
be considered a reward.
A few of my cats aren't even food motivated. One of my cat, her
Yep.
name's Blue Cat, but it's an orange cat. She likes being brushed so much, and that is her reward. If there is a fire, knock on wood, at home, the fastest way to call her to come to me is to just grab the brush and say, brushy,
Get the
brushy.
brush. Yep.
Completely agree with what you said. Now,
Yeah.
yeah, that seems to be some of the top headaches, isn't it? Like one of my
Yeah.
clients that I was seeing this week, the first thing I had to tell them to do after seeing their interaction for the first minute, I'm like, let's consider not screaming first when your cat tries to climb up your wife, because I
Yeah.
think just that act in itself, it's going to undo a lot of the good stuff that I just talked about. So let's just try one baby step.
Yeah. I see
Yeah.
that so much. It's the I think people don't really understand how our reactions affect our cats. Our cats are extremely sensitive to our stress and anxiety, first of
Of
all.
course. Mm.
But then say you have two cats that aren't getting along and you fear that an interaction is going badly. So then you start yelling, clapping, squirting water at the cats. Each cat, they're just thinking, oh my God, when I get next to this other cat, these people start freaking out. There's loud noise, there's water. This other cat sucks.
Yes,
So,
complete. You just mentioned those loud noise, clapping, spraying water.
yeah,
Every time I hear that, well, just don't do that first because
I'm like,
I think
no, no, no,
it's a
no.
natural reaction for some people to react that way, but they don't realize that, okay, first, cats' ears are like, what, 14 times more stronger than ours. So that clap, it's gonna sound
Very
like a
sensitive.
thunder to them. And not
Yeah.
only that, I think it's just the ambiance overall. A lot of people, you're right, they underestimate the power of the voice. As much as we like listening to the yoga teacher or the person that's chanting, it sounds very soothing. It's the same thing with their voice. The reason why I wanted to highlight that is because in my initial day job, but what, 16 years ago, I started as a voiceover artist. And they taught me about how to use my voice in a way that children would like to listen to, because I used to do English education material for storybooks for
Very
children at the beginning. And they're like, it's the power of that voice. If you can't convey it in your voice, if you can't see it, if you are not in winter wonderland, if you're mentally not there, how are you expecting these kids to be able to hear that and feel good and see the same imagery? So now I think about it, it's the same thing with our cats. If you're freaking
Yeah.
out, well, they're freaking out too. Not because they should be, but they hear you freaking out. Yeah.
Right. I always tell my clients, like, okay, if the cats are near each other, don't even use what I call the warning tone. The warning tone, and I'm going to use Oliver and Momo as an example.
Mm,
Oliver, you be nice to your sister. Oliver, you
mm,
stop that. That's the warning tone.
yeah.
So right away, he's on edge. What? Is there something? Do I need to, what? Do I need to be on guard? Instead, use a positive voice. Hey, Oliver, look who it is, Momo. Do you want to be friends with Momo today? That sounds great. Oh, look at you guys. The friendly voice. And then that puts the cats at ease, it lowers tension,
Mhm.
and it makes a huge difference for
Oh,
cat interactions.
completely agree. And people say that too. I was talking to somebody and they said it works on the boyfriend and husband as well.
Yup.
Yep. It is so much better when you say, "Honey, when was the last time you did the laundry?" Or, "Honey, did you wanna do laundry tonight?" It's 2 different worlds, isn't it? And it's the recipient of that. When I hear the second one, "Yeah, sure, I'll do laundry. Why not? At your service."
Sure,
So
sure,
same
sure.
the next thing is, what are some of the common misconceptions that these cat parents have about their cat's behavior? And how could it be addressed? Because we just talked about what the problems are, but what are some common misunderstandings that people often have? I guess one is people applying human logics to
Right.
cats.
Yeah. So human logic is a big deal. And then it, it's just so funny what I hear people say sometimes. But I can't blame them. Cats
Mm,
are mysterious creatures.
it
And
can be.
I think for a long time, people have expected cats to act like small dogs. And they're just very different animals.
Mm,
But because of the mysteriousness of cats, mm, they don't give up their secrets easily. And it's
mm,
taken us a long time to learn what we know about cats. So,
absolutely.
cats are not small dogs. Another thing is that anytime I talk about cat training, they're like, you can't train cats. You're going to try to train a cat? Yeah, I'm going to
Yeah.
try to. I have trained cats. My cat, Abby, she can do lots of stuff,
Oh, yeah.
but it's not really about tricks. It's not about tricks.
Mhm.
And in fact, it's not even really about training the cat.
Hmm.
It's more about training people. It's more about
Yes.
training people.
There was another episode that we touched on that, and it's very true. A lot of people are opposed to that idea of either training cats or the person that's being trained. And we talked about that, and we came to the conclusion that training is not the same as making cats jump through a fire hoop. It's just conditioning them to do things that makes life easier. And when people say, "Oh, I don't wanna be trained," I'm like, "How about your personal trainer at the gym? Don't they train you too? You pay them and you do it happily." And that's overt training, whereas here it's like subtle training. Why is there suddenly so much pushback? And when people hear that, they start to laugh. They're like, "Yeah, you're right. Yeah, we do get trained." It's like when you go to
The
work, there's employee training. Did you have pushback?
the thing
Yeah.
is, people don't even realize that our cats have trained us to
Yes.
respond to them
Yes.
in the way that they want. And they do humans get trained by cats all the time. Cats are master manipulators.
Oh, yes.
Um,
And combined with the cute look, yes, recipe for success.
exactly.
More power to them.
So exactly. So if they want something, they tell you, I want to be fed, I want to be fed, I want to be fed. They meow, meow, meow. And if you feed them,
Y
okay, now I stop meowing. And you're
Yep.
like, okay. So next time you hear the meow, you're like, oh, here's food. The cat just trained you
We
by
can
your
tell
cat.
the meows apart too. Like the seasoned cat
Yes,
parent, we can tell the subtle differences in the meows in terms of what it is that they
absolutely.
want. And you know what they say, right? Cats don't meow to each other in the wild.
Right,
When they're
right.
amongst like each other, when you have a cam on, you never, almost never
Yeah,
hear them meow at each other. It's at you.
yes. Yeah, I know. They've learned to communicate with humans in that very specific way. There's even differences in purring. There's what's called the solicitation purr, and that's like the feed me purr. Oh, I'm gonna get real purry. And then you want to feed me. And then they give out rewards too. They use positive reinforcement. If you give them what they want, a lot of times they'll purr and rub up against you, and you're like, oh, that's so nice.
Mhm.
So they just use positive reinforcement to get what they want too. So cats, they're smart. We need to take a page out of their book.
Oh, absolutely. If we could speak the same language and if we're in the parallel universe where cats are running their consultation in terms of how to train the humans, I think they're a
Yeah,
lot better because we don't even know that we're being trained for the
exactly.
most part,
Exactly.
which is part of a very successful program, which I think we should all
Right.
be able to learn from. And so now you talked
Exactly.
about some of the misconceptions, right? As we said, a lot of times it's about the humans that play a role in it. Speaking of that, it's all about them responding to the environment that they've been given and that they've been treated. What are some tips that you can offer to new cat parents or existing cat parents that want to finesse their SOPs or their lifestyle for
Right.
preventing behavioral problems from occurring in the first place? Because we know prevention is always better than cure. Is there some sage advice that
Yeah.
you can give us in that department?
Yeah. So I would have to say that probably the most important thing for cats is play sessions. So cute.
Oh,
Professor Cortex. Love it. So we have to remember that cats are both predators and prey animals,
mm,
and they require an outlet for those predatory instincts. And that's at the core of their being. They are predators. If we do not provide them with those opportunities to be predators, they can be aggressive towards other cats, other humans in the household, small children, and out of play, usually, but sometimes it can get serious.
of course.
Predatory aggression. But they can also get really bored, and
Mm,
boredom leads to stress. Stress can lead to destructive behaviors, house soiling, depression. So, play is the most important thing, and it has to be interactive play.
mhm.
I usually recommend a long wand toy,
Yes.
changing up the lures every day or two just to keep things interesting. Cats don't want to hunt the same exact thing over and over and over and over and over and over again.
We
Um,
don't want to either. It's boring.
no, no, it's really boring. So we need to change things up, give them that predatory experience where they can go through the 4 steps in the prey sequence. So staring, stalking and chasing, pouncing and grabbing, and then performing a kill bite, and know that they will repeat that sequence over and over and over and over again. When they stop, they're not just bored and done. They've reset to that staring phase and they're like,
Yeah. Yeah.
okay, you've got a broken leg now. What's going to happen?
Yeah, that's exactly what they look
Yeah.
like, and they feel satisfied too in that process when they were sent back
Yeah.
to that. It's like we satisfied a quota, and it doesn't And the benefit of that is that you're more like sprinters than
Mm,
long distance. So to
yeah,
reach that, it doesn't take that long. So I think it's a
right.
win-win. We should use that to our advantage.
Yeah, absolutely. The other thing about play sessions too is that we want our cats to connect with that confident predatory side instead
Mm,
of that insecure prey side. So if you
mm,
have a cat who is somewhat skittish or maybe even being picked on by another
mm.
cat, a lot of people think it's all about making that other cat not pick on the fearful cat. But a lot of it is bringing up that fearful cat confidence
Oh, yeah.
so they stand up for themselves and go, hey, I'm a predator too.
Mhm.
So giving those pre sequence play sessions can really help with that.
Oh, yeah, 100%. That reminds me
Yeah.
of kids that get bullied by the bully. Instead of beating up the bully for them, teach your kid how to stand up for themselves.
Yeah.
Is the
Yeah.
same. Yes. How
Yeah.
about the other attributes at home? How about litter box? Do you have any sage advice for that? Because a lot of
Yeah.
people talk about the litter box in their cat parenting journey.
So the litter box is a core resource for cats. One of the most important things for cats in terms of feeling territorially secure is the ability to leave their scent in their
Mm,
environment. And the litter box is a huge scent marker in the landscape. Even if you clean it out every day and it's immaculate, even if you can't smell it, your cats can smell their own scent in the litter box. It's just what they do. And there are so many gimmicks on the market. I have so many different pet peeves about the pet market out there. Really, the best thing is a large, uncovered, open litter box with a fine grained clumping litter that you can scoop out once or twice a day
yeah.
to keep the litter box clean. Cats evolved in a dry, arid environment with sandy soil. They want to be able to see around them so that they can make sure they're not going to get ambushed by predators.
Mm.
So, putting a hood on a litter box, especially one with flap
Oh,
or something that's really enclosed that creates a lot of ambush potential, it hides, it keeps odor in there. It's like using a porta potty for a cat instead of a
mhm.
nice spa like environment that your cat wants.
Yeah.
There's a lot of reasons why the litter box is super important, but simple is best. Do not train your cat how to use a flush toilet.
Mm.
Don't do it. It's a mistake. I tend to shy away from litter, like mechanized litter boxes, because in my mind, the most important thing is simply being able to monitor your cat's health. And
Mhm.
a lot of times, the first sign we see of a problem in the cat's health, we notice a change in the litter box, which you're not going to notice if it's getting automatically done for you all the time. So,
Oh,
yeah, it's not, honestly, it's not that bad. People like dog people complain about, oh, cat litter boxes are so gross. It's way better than following your dog around with a poo bag and then having to pick up a warm, squishy lid.
mm,
You know what I'm
that
saying?
is so true. That is so true. I can't stress
I've
that
had dogs.
enough.
I love dogs, but
Me too.
I would much rather clean a litter box than deal with
Me too. That
yeah.
tactile feeling of grabbing warm poop through a bag.
I
Yeah,
do not like that. I do
me
not like
neither.
that.
I don't mind doing it, but yes, you're right. If I have to pick between scooping and that, absolutely scooping is a lot easier. The last one, in terms of the tips, can you tell us a little bit more about the playtime? You mentioned about the ones when you're interacting with them can't be home all the time, right? So it doesn't matter if
Right.
you have one cat, if you've got multiple cats. Are there some good types of toys that these cat parents should be looking into if they don't already have it at home?
I love okay, so I said before, interactive wand toys. The
Right.
longer the wand, the better,
Yeah.
in my opinion. And that's gonna help wear a cat out. Plus, it does get their mind going because they have to figure out how to catch that
Yeah.
thing. But other things that provide cats with mental enrichment are great too. So
Mm,
I am a big fan of food puzzles, and you can make your own food puzzles out of toilet paper tubes or Kleenex boxes or ice cube trays, whatever you have that you can actually put food in
mm,
or little treats. You can even do things with wet food, like with ice cube trays or like a mug tipped on its side. You can smear the inside with wet food too. So there are lots of options out there for food puzzles. And then, of course, there's clicker training, which I love for cats. Um, and like we said, it's not just about tricks. Cooperative care is really important, and you can use clicker training to help with cooperative care.
Mm.
And cooperative care is simply getting your cat to buy in to handling, grooming,
Yes.
going through the process of getting medications or injections for the cases. And it can help vet visits go a lot
Mm.
easier, or just brushing, trimming nails can make that stuff a lot easier. And that's all training based and just helping your cat understand what the process is and make it rewarding for them,
Oh,
and
yes.
tell them that they can walk away at any time. They just don't get
Yep.
the reward.
Yep.
So, yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. When you mentioned about that, one of my cats, Burrito, he came from Malaysia. So long story short, he was rescued as an injured baby kitten, like I think less than 10 days old. And he was injured. So he had to frequent vets all the time. And I made it playtime to associate it with a place where he can get treats and funsies and then you get kisses and
Yeah.
snuggles and everything. So for
Yeah.
him, he looks forward to going to the vet because he knows that's where all the good stuff are. And the funny thing is, all the subsequent cats that I had after him are not afraid of vets, despite the fact that they don't frequent vets like he does, and they don't go out nearly as much as he did. It's almost like there
Oh,
was like a
burrito.
briefing, like
Yeah.
he
Burrito
briefed them.
told them. Yeah.
I'm not sure
It's
what
like,
happened, but it's no coincidence because I had 3 other cats after him, and it's the exact same thing, and even my resident cats got better at going to the vet, and I was like, "How's that even possible?" So it must be the new guy who came in and is like, "Yeah, have you heard of that place?" They're like, "Oh, no, it's not like that." "No, I could tell you all about it." I guess he did some convincing, so yes, yes, that absolutely works. We are the walking example. Now, I wanna
exactly.
elaborate just a little bit more on the topic when you said about inter-cat aggression. Can you
Mhm.
tell us a little bit more about some steps that people can take to prevent further damage, further conflict? Because it's not one of those one-click solutions when it comes to cat aggression. Once it happened, it's quite a headache, and there's multiple ways to get at it because there's multiple reasons, right? So can you tell us
Right.
something about that?
Okay. So we have to remember that for cats, everything in their world is related.
Hmm,
And what we want to make sure that we manage with cats is that their stress levels are low enough
hmm,
that they can deal with the stressor of being reintroduced or introduced to another cat.
correct.
So I like to talk about the stress bucket,
Okay.
and different cats have different sizes of stress buckets.
Mm,
So some cats have really big stress buckets where no matter what you put in there, it's never going to fill up. That cat's just, hey, man, I'm relaxing. It's at the beach. Yay, come on in. I'm okay. I'm over here. If you need anything, just let me know.
hmm,
Other cats have like really tiny thimble sized stress buckets. And if you look at them wrong, that bucket's overflowing. That cat's peeing everywhere,
mm,
just doesn't know what to do with themselves. So what we want to do is make sure that there's plenty of room in each cat's stress bucket, because introductions and relationships between the cats can be stressful. So we want to make sure that there's plenty of room for the stress to go up just a little bit when we work on introduction exercises. So that means making sure that each cat has, you kind of figure out where in the house each cat's territory is, especially if you've got them separated. And you want to make sure that each territory has their own set of resources
mm,
that cat does not have to compete for, doesn't have any stress around.
mm,
So that means litter box setup, food, water, napping locations, perching locations. And it means that if you have this cat and their resources are over here, this cat doesn't have to go through this cat's territory to get to those resources. You want to make those resources easy and accessible, and that is going to keep their stress levels low in that stress bucket. And then,
definitely.
so everything is related with cats. You have to make sure all those basic resources are taken care of and everybody's happy with them. And then you can move on to the introduction process. And my main goal with the introduction process is to minimize the potential for negative interactions happening.
Mm,
So we have to manage all the interactions. So
Mm.
if your cats are playing footsies under the door and
Mm.
one of them is not ready for that,
Yeah.
you need to get a draft stopper
Mm.
so that the cats don't play footsies under the door when you're not around.
Mm.
So minimize the opportunities for negative interactions to occur and then build positive associations. So for every type of interaction, you pair it with something positive.
Yes.
So even if you're doing scent swapping and introducing the scent of another cat to another cat,
Mm.
you have to pair that with something good that the
Mhm.
other cat likes.
Yep.
Um, and visual exposure is the same thing. You want to pair it with something positive. Keep interactions short and sweet at first, and then
Mhm.
start to let them go longer and longer.
Yep.
And then you can use positive reinforcement anytime there's a neutral interaction or a positive interaction. There's a lot of different ways of doing things, but those are kind of my general rules.
Yeah, I like how you mentioned about how the resources, a lot of people don't really think about it that way. Reason being, I hear it from my clients all the time. Oh, but my cats can share a food dish. Oh, they can share a bed. I'm like, yes, I do understand that. That is, of course, that's a great thing. I'm not saying that you should stop them from doing it. But to some cats, especially in the beginning, when you're trying to introduce them, it's that perceived threat.
Mhm.
It is that
Yeah.
perceived competition. It is that
Yeah.
perceived deprivation. It's if you
Right.
go into a party, I was giving them an example. If you go into a party, there's 100 people, but when you eyeball it, you can tell that the buffet can only serve 50. You feel this urgency to hoard food because it's only serving 50 and there's 100 people. So you already know that
Right.
there's going to be there's not going to be enough. But when they're serving so much food that even say 200 people can't eat it, then suddenly you're probably just going to be picking at a very slow pace, knowing that you will never have to compete and that your favorite food is not going to run out anyway. So you
Yeah.
can just
Yeah.
enjoy that experience. And once I
Right.
made that example, they're like, oh, so that's what it is. I'm like, yes, the fact that they can share a bed and share a plate together is great. But you have to send the message that this is a great place for you to be at ease.
It's just we don't know. It's interesting because I'll hear this from people a lot. Everything was fine. My cat loved their litter box, and then all of a sudden they stopped using it and
Mhm.
started going over here. And I'm
Well,
like, your cat did not love that litter box. It didn't just all of a sudden one day change his mind.
mhm,
Your cat, and as cats get older, their stress bucket shrinks, so they
yep,
have less tolerance for
agreed.
stressors.
Mhm.
So your cat started out not really loving the litter box setup.
They put
And
up
then
with it.
every day it was more just, I'm gonna have to put up with this again and again. Really? Oh
Mm,
gosh, this is getting really bad. I really don't like this. You know what? I'm going over here.
yep.
So it was a process,
Mhm.
not I love this litter box and now I refuse to use it.
Well,
But as humans, it's hard for us to know if our cat loves something versus just tolerating. So
yeah.
even though your cat can do something, it doesn't mean they want to.
Oh, absolutely. And that's why I always tell people to just give them variety. You don't know what they like unless you let them choose. If they have no choice but to mingle with you, that's because you're their only friend. What if you put other people in the
Yeah.
house? What if you put other cats in the house? If they don't choose to mingle with you anymore, it's probably because there's better options.
Right. Right.
And we just have
Right.
to accept that. Okay, so now you mentioned about how to deal with these problems. Now, what are some of the common mistakes that people make when they're trying to correct their cat's behavior? And how can that be avoided? As I say, prevention is better than cure. This is not so much
Yeah.
the protocol itself, but the execution of the protocol. What are some
Right.
common ones that you see?
So a lot of times punishment is used. And we
Yes.
already talked about like the yelling, clapping, water bottle stuff. For a cat to connect a behavior to a consequence, that
Mm,
consequence needs to happen consistently and it needs to happen right when that behavior occurs. I think
red-handed.
I read 1.3 seconds
Hmm.
somewhere. I don't know what that was from. But if you are consistently punishing your cat, like say you're using the squirt bottle, if you're doing that all the time, that is going to really erode the cat's relationship with that person. It's going to create fear, anxiety, and stress. And it's not really fixing the problem because obviously you're still having to use the water bottle
Mm,
on this cat who's trying to meet a need. Like I said before, when we think about things like yelling, clapping, using the squirt bottle, scruffing, using shock devices, whatever it is, it's not the way to go. It often doesn't fix the root of the problem. And it just causes a cat to, instead of doing something in one location, do it in another location or away from your eyes.
Mm-hmm.
So punishment doesn't work, and it can actually be really negative in terms of the cat's mental well-being and relationship with you.
Mm-hmm.
And so I always advocate for positive reinforcement. Like I said before, figure out a way that your cat can meet that natural behavior that they're trying to express
Mm.
and reward them for doing that.
Yeah.
Using high perches if you don't want your cat to be up on the counter, put a perch right next to the counter and reward them when they get up on that perch.
Mm.
Or scratching surfaces. If your cat doesn't like the scratcher that you've given it, use a different kind of scratcher and put it right where the cat is scratching that you don't want them to scratch, and then reward them for using the scratcher. That's a much better way to go
Mm-hmm.
because you're giving your cats rewards, which your cat
Yes.
likes, and you're teaching your cat that they get rewards when they do this thing.
Mhm.
The other thing that I see a lot of is human ego.
Mm.
And when we're talking about cats, we have to remember that cats are the superior being. And they're not.
Yeah, that is the
But
simple, true fact.
and a lot of times people take it really personally
Mm.
when cats do things.
Yeah.
And we have to remember that cats do not act out of spite. They do not have a brain structure that allows them to plan. Oh, in response to this thing my human did a week ago, I'm still mad at them. So next time I'm going to do this. I'm going to poop on their bed. That'll get them. First of all, cats have a very different relationship with poop than humans do.
Yeah.
And so a cat is probably not going to be insulted that there's poop on the bed or pee for that matter. But cats do not have that ability to plan revenge tactics.
Mhm.
They don't do that.
Yeah.
They are very in the moment. And we have to take our ego out of this because cats can be extremely stubborn. And in a battle of wills, your cat will win.
Oh, all the
And
time.
yeah, you just have to say, okay, I'm going to let it go. What else can I do instead of getting mad or punishing this cat? What can I do to give this kitty what he needs?
Right.
How do I make it
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
I think that is one of the toughest conversations I always need to have with my friends, with my clients, or just anybody that I'm providing education to. They always cringe and look at me. Do you know what you're talking about? Do you know what my cat did? I'm like, they're not wired to be like that. If they have a sense of jealousy or revenge, or if they keep tabs on things, just remember the last time when you force a pill down their throat and you're holding them down
Right.
at the vet. If that was a
Right.
human, you would never go back to that place. You would shred up the
Right.
human if you can. But how many times have you taken your cat to do the same thing again and you're still in one piece? I'm not saying that they love
Right.
it, but they
Right.
could shred you up if they really want to. So
Right.
it's not like that. And when they say, oh, but they have jealousy issues, I'm like, think about it. If you don't speak the human language, you don't speak the cat human language, and you're just a spectator, they're just reacting to certain things that's happening in the environment. It's not because they are afraid of XYZ. It's because they're not getting what it is that they want. Something is not satisfied. It has very little to do with what you do with another cat because cats are those animals where they care more about rather their own needs are satisfied. They don't work together when they hunt. There's a
Right.
very
Right.
there's
Right.
how many species of cats would hunt together? They're not a pack animal. So they're more like, if I got my thing,
There's only
cool,
one.
then I don't
There's
care.
only
But
one.
right, if I'm not satisfied, that's what I'm afraid of. But once I'm satisfied, yeah, you guys could have the buffets and margaritas, all you like. It doesn't matter because I had mine. That's what it
Yeah.
is. That's what cats are. So people have a
Yeah.
hard time wrapping their head around that. And that leads to the next thing that I want to talk about is how can cat parents help their cats adjust to changes in the environment? Because sometimes we move, we get new partners, new babies, new humans, new pets, or rearrange furniture. How can we actually make that better? Oops,
Right.
there goes. How can we make that better for our cats?
So some cats are really easygoing and
Mm,
they're like, "Yeah, new baby, great, bring twins, who cares?" And they're like, "Oh, yay, more babies to play with, fantastic."
mhm,
Or, "Oh, look at that puppy. I get to snuggle with that puppy now." Some cats are like that.
right.
A lot of cats, most cats are not like that.
Mm.
And so what we want to do is help them adjust to a change, preferably before it happens,
Mm.
and get them used to certain things before the arrival of a baby or a new pet, or even the process of traveling. So, the way we help cats adjust to new situations
Mm.
or anything new or something that they might be afraid of is we want to expose them just a little bit at a time.
Right.
And then we also want to pair that with something good that the cats like. We talk about this in terms of counter conditioning and systematic desensitization.
Okay.
So the way I use counter conditioning or describe counter conditioning in this type of a scenario is
Mm.
that we pair a good thing with a bad thing to make the bad thing less bad and more
Okay.
good. For example, if you have a cat who likes treats
Mm.
and you give a cat or throw cat treats into the cat carrier for the cat to find, oh, you're pairing cat treats with cat carrier. The cat carrier might not be all that bad if it materializes treats every now and again. Not that bad, right? Then we have systematic desensitization, and you can think of this as just the volume knob on the level of exposure that you provide to cats. So
Right.
instead of just picking up your cat, throwing them into a carrier, and "Oop, we're off to the vet,
Mhm.
oh, we're going to dismantle the cat carrier first, and we're going to put the bottom half down and put a nice little bed in it. And because we're counter conditioning, we're also going to put some treats on there. And
Mm.
then the cat learns, oh, the bottom of this cat carrier is really nice. It's a nice bed. I like hanging out in it. And then we're going to put the top on the bed and we're
Mm.
going to do the same thing, put more treats in there. The cat's already used to the bottom part with the bed in it. Now it just has the top part. So
Mm.
now the cat's going to go in there. And then the last thing we're going to do is put the door on. And
Mm.
then the cat goes in there. And then you can even go further. You can close the door and open the door. And the cat's, wait, that door was closed, but now it's open. So I'm okay. And then
Yeah.
here's some treats.
Right.
And then you can close the door, pick up the cat carrier and put it right down, open up the door. Hey,
Mhm.
this isn't so bad because I keep getting treats.
Right.
And then, oh, I'm going to walk around the apartment, or now I'm going to go out onto the street and then I'm going to come right back home. Or now I'm going to go for a ride in the car, come right back home.
Yeah.
There's a lot of different ways to change that exposure gradient
Mm.
and also combine good things with each level of exposure.
Absolutely. If you notice right behind me, see under the table, it's actually a cat carrier. That is a piece of the furniture at home. See how I put a wine crate that's right above it with their favorite blankies? They
Mhm.
love wine crates. I don't know why. So I found one that matches the size of the top of the carrier.
The
And
carrier.
what happens is that this is a permanent item at home. There's always
Yeah.
treats, there's always toys. Every time I put catnip, it's in there. There's one in the kitchen, and it just becomes
Yep.
part of my house. None of my
Yep.
cats are afraid of going to the vet. To them, it's
Right.
just, "Okay, yeah, now what?"
Yeah. Yeah. I have cat carriers all over my house that they use. They just go in.
And it works
And
like
you can do the
magic.
same. Yeah, and you can do the same thing with if you're expecting a baby or another animal. You can, like with a baby, for example, you
Mm.
can start wearing baby lotion so that
Mm.
your cat gets used to that scent. You can also play YouTube videos so that the cat hears baby sounds. So not you can start off with
Mhm.
giggling and laughing babies, but then you might want to play some sounds where the
They're
cat
screaming.
hears some crying babies, and just make sure your cat is okay with that,
Mm.
and get your cat used to the furniture where the baby's room is going to be, all that stuff. And then moving, of course, you want to do that gradually over
Yeah.
time. And so it's just, you basically use the same concepts anytime you want your cat to be involved with something new.
It looks like that's it for the time today. I would love to have you coming back for a second episode to elaborate a little bit more on the whole experience and how to get along with our cats better, how to non-train, non-clicker, no human, no nothing training, but still training everybody. And also, I really just want to say I enjoyed the conversation so much and I learned a lot, Dr. Koski. It's excellent. And I just want everybody to know you have to understand that your cat's behavior is critical to your well-being and vice versa.
So my website is felinebehaviorsolutions.com. And if you need behavior services or have questions about your cat, please reach out to me there. And I also have another consultant working with me. Her name is Leanna. She's amazing. And if you have any questions about what I've said today or want to learn more, please send me an email, and you can reach me at hello@felinebehaviorsolutions.com.
Wonderful. And behavior is without the, right? Because it's in the States.
Without the U.
Without the
Yes.
U. Awesome.
Without the
Yes.
U.
So now we have an additional resource in case anybody have any feline related problems, preventative or not preventative stuff. So please do remember that. And also remember, understanding your cat's behavior is really important in giving another life on this planet the best life possible. And when you adopt one, you're actually saving two. So one stone, two birds, but of course, don't hurt any birds. This is
Don't hurt birds.
just a saying. Yeah. So remember to tune in next time. We'll talk about other topics with other speakers. And meanwhile, everyone, keep purring in the meantime. And if you're watching YouTube, remember, comment, subscribe, join our Discord community. And please do follow our socials on melocat.com for everybody else that is watching or listening. And until our next episode, everybody stay well,